Good morning. So I've been looking recently at some of the links between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I just think it's so easy to see the Old Testament as kind of done and dusted, replaced by the New and by what Jesus has done. But it's still there, it's still part of the Bible, it's still there to be read, still significant and still to be learned from. So I found it really interesting. Actually, I've been listening to a podcast from the Bible Project, and one of the podcasts specifically looks at just one of the 10 Commandments. And there's a scholar being interviewed, her name is Dr. Carmen Imes, and she spent her whole PhD on just looking at one of the 10 Commandments from Exodus. And I just found it really helpful to listen to her research and findings, and it's given me a kind of broader perspective on the commandment and really helped me to connect it to the New Testament. So I hope it's helpful for you also. So the commandment that she's looking at is the third commandment. We might be used to hearing this one as it's stated in the ESV. Thou shalt not take the name of your Lord God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. We also see it written in the NIV as, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. And we're probably most used to maybe interpreting this as it's written in the Message. No using the name of God, your God, in curses or silly banter. God won't put up with the irreverent use of his name. However, this scholar suggests that maybe it's a lot broader in just how we speak the name of God. So the Hebrew translation of this part, where it talks about taking the name, is actually lifting up or carrying the name of God. It doesn't mention speaking the name specifically. So actually, she suggests it appears to be more about how God's people represent God's name, represent God. And actually the word used in Hebrew for in vain is actually about effectiveness. So not to represent God ineffectively, but to live in such a way that befits his holiness. So obviously that encompasses the way that we use God's name, not to be used in swearing or false oaths, but actually it appears to be a lot broader than this, about how God's people lift up, carry, represent God's name. And we also know that this is reflected in the New Testament in a number of instances, and there are so many different passages I could quote, but I'll take Matthew 5, 14 to 16 as an example. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So in some ways, this being a representative of God is daunting and it feels like a big responsibility. But in other ways, it means we get to be the lights of the world and representatives of the Almighty. So I pray that this encourages you as you start your week. And I hope you have blessed weeks.